Hi folks, let's talk scopes. Welcome to the new reloading room too, by the way. So I've been receiving a few questions about scopes. What sort of scopes to run? I suppose it's a personal thing. I suppose for everybody it comes down to price. It certainly was for me. But let's talk about a bit of the jargon that you're going to hear, and let's break it down for you guys. For those that don't know or are having trouble understanding all the jargon. So typically with the game we play, being NRL 22, you need a scope that's going to parallax down to low yardage. 10, 15, maybe even 20 yards, okay? So your parallax is the side adjustment. So you have parallax, windage, elevation on your caps. Normally you'll have 3 caps. Explained, basically your parallax is you bring your scope up, the image is fuzzy, you clear it up with your parallax, okay? Just a point of interest, don't pay too much attention to what that dial says because it's quite often wrong, okay? Quite often if you're looking at a target that's 60 yards, your parallax might be on 40 or, God forbid, 20. I see that a lot, especially in cheaper glass. So you need something that'll parallax down low. That's handy when we go to engage targets that are 25, 40 yards, okay? So you can really get the most clearest image that you possibly can. It's important, I guess, for me to run a 30mm or a 34mm tube. Now there's a photograph of a scope there. That's your tube, okay, this piece here. The Torrance tube. If you can get a 34mm tube, if the budget allows, it's better for a couple of reasons. It lets more light in, but it also gives you more clicks, okay? So more adjustment on your windage and your elevation. When we get right into NRL 22X, clicks are going to become like the new fashion. People will be looking for bigger scopes that's got more revolutions on them, okay? So a revolution is, say you're on 0 on your elevation target, turret, 1 complete revolution, that's 1. Another complete revolution from 0 to 0 is 2, okay? You hear it in the PRS or the centerfire world, you know, people go, oh, he's a rev out. He's a rev out on his data. That's what that means, 1 complete rev. Just quickly, what am I, 1.8 at 100. You'll find, I don't have my phone with me, it's actually filming. I can't remember what 200 yard data is. It might be 8mm. Please don't everyone rush in and correct me on this, just completely off the top of my head. But yeah, if you're in the market for a new scope, think about going to the thickest tube, the biggest tube you can get, because there are advantages to it. Your front objective, I don't know if you can see, so that's your ocular, that's what your eye looks through. Man, I've got too many blue presses here. That's your front objective, okay? To get a 56mm front objective is more beneficial for NRL 22, okay? So I explain it this way. If you've got a 30mm front objective, that's what you'll see. If you've got a 40mm, 50mm, 56mm. Now it doesn't sound like a lot to go from 50 to 56mm. It's a hard one to teach. One of our newer shooters, quite a few months ago, came to me and said, oh, I don't like shooting so-and-so's gun. And I went, oh, well, gee, why? Because it's a fairly expensive rig. But he's only got a 50mm front objective. And this young fellow was telling me, you just can't see anything. It's like looking through a pinhole, Dom. I laughed because he's relatively new to this game. That just confirms like what I preach. His field of view. And field of view is important. If you're blind like me and you've got to run like 18 mag, which I'll explain in a minute. I'm losing field of view, but I need to be able to read my reticle. That's why I run such a high magnification. That leads me into magnification. All right. Get the biggest magnification that your budget can cope with. And it's not so much that we run on these big magnifications. I'll tell you another little quick tip. And I learned this a few years ago by watching centerfire shooters, American centerfire shooters, PRS or NRL. And when NRL had their race gun series on YouTube, it was unreal. That's what sort of first drew me to all this. But I heard it there. Yeah. So for example, if I've got a scope that's 5 to 25, I remember years ago when Vortex biggest scope went from 5 to 25, then the Generation 3 scope came in, they went 5 to 30. All these American dudes rushed down and got the 30 power scope, and I remember thinking to myself, wow, I suppose it makes sense, those boys are shooting a lot further out than we are, but that's not necessarily the case. What they're trying to do is, if you've got a scope that's between 5 to 25, your middle power is 15, okay? So in all these scopes, because of the way how they work mechanically and how they're set up, if you can get your crosshairs in the middle of the tube, if you can run on the middle magnification, that is as clearest as it's going to be. And that's why, I heard it on a podcast one day, someone asked, I can't remember who it was, but someone asked, why do you go for the bigger magnification scopes? Is it because you use the bigger magnification? The answer was no. I want my scope to be the clearest it can be. That's why a lot of those boys changed. I know between 5 and 25, 15 is the middle, so I shoot on 18. I normally shoot on 18 all the time. But if I was to shoot on 15, that's the clearest that scope that I'm running can be. Focal plane. Let's talk quickly about focal plane. Nearly everyone that I know shoots first focal plane. Now, first focal plane is necessary for us dudes, us boys and girls, because as we change magnification, the reticle, okay, your crosshairs get bigger. All right. That works with all your data. All right. It doesn't matter if you sight your scope in, if you sight your gun in at 50 yards and you're on 6 power, and then you compete on 18 power, all that data is the same. In second focal plane, the reticle stays the same shape. Now, I'm told hunters use second focal plane. I'm not a hunter, I don't come from a hunting background. I've got a second focal plane scope now on my IPSC rifle, so I've had to delve into that a little bit. I'm just going to leave it on 6 power. Typically I'll shoot it out, so probably past around 100. So the data that I've done for that gun is on 6 power, so I leave it there. Okay. So typically NRL 22 shooters will all run first focal plane scopes. MIL, MOA, the great debate. It doesn't really worry me. When I first started, I'd be fine with an MOA scope. That's only my opinion. If you understand MOA on your scope, that's fine. What a lot of people say is everybody, or the greater majority, shoot MIL Radian. Okay, so if you're away and someone says, "Oh, what's your wind call on stage 3?" "Oh, it was dragging me off target, 0.2 to the left." If you're a MIL Radian shooter, straight away you understand what he just said. If you're an MOA shooter, it's like when someone talks to me in MOA, I'm like, Swahili. Now that's a double-edged sword as well, because when I started going away and competing, very quickly I learned to trust my data. Jason Nebdet the other day when I interviewed him, and I said, what's the best piece of advice you've ever been given? He said that. He said, don't trust anyone else's data. I heard that in Brisbane when I was down there. People would come off a stage where they've shot, let's say, 4 out of 10, so they're not in a good place. Then they start asking their mate, my God, what's your hold at 100? And I thought, my God, this should all be done before we get here. Trust your own data. Trust your own data, you know. So the old saying of everyone shoots a mil radian so you'll understand everyone doesn't really sort of fly for me. I think, like I said before, going back, if you understand MI, that's fine. Okay, so you're all sitting there going, all right, Dom, so what scopes? Trying to not be biased. This scope here, for example, this is my wife's old scope. We both started here at the Vortex Venom. Okay. Everything. When I first looked for a scope for an NRL22, that scope fit the bill. Price. I liked the reticle. Clarity for the price that we paid was fine. Clarity is a hard one to teach. A very wise friend of mine, Benny B, said to me a couple of years ago when I was in the market getting out of this one to go into better glass. I was sort of looking at the $1,500 mark. I was talking on the phone one night and he said, hey, do you want my advice? I went, yeah. He said, save up another $1,000 and get into the $2,500, $3,000 mark. And I did, and man, it's night and day. I work in a gun shop and I've got this lovely old fella from Claremont who's getting into long range, and we had a lengthy discussion the other day, and he's just found out to see through Mirage at like 600, you need better glass. You need to step into the next level, okay? But certainly the Vortex Venom, the Zerotech 525 Vengeance, brilliant scope. Brilliant entry-level scope. They both have, let's talk about reticles for a minute. They both have half mil hashes, okay? So you've got the center. Now this is going down your vertical stadia. You've got your center. You'll have like a 0.2, which is the start of the vertical line. You'll have a 0.2. Well, actually, in these scopes it's 0.25, and then every half mil radian you have a mark. So you'll have half 1, half 2. Now the disadvantage of those scopes are, let's just assume your dope is 1.8 at 100. At 1.8, you're holding on a black line, okay? So your 2 mark will be there. See if I've got another pen or something here. You'll be sort of holding there in what I call nothing. And that's the advantage of that's the other advantage of Durascopes too. Like so, most other higher price scopes will have 2 mil hashes. I see Baris has come out now with a 0.25 hash. Okay, so for example, in my scope, I've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 1. 2, 4, 6, 8, 2 mil radian. Alright, so very rarely am I hanging on the stadia between hashes. Let me put it that way. So between hashes, so in that space there. But if I do, then that gives me a 0.1 hole. I hope I haven't lost anyone. So I can actually go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 1 mil radian with a 0.2 hole. So it gives me more to look at. Us humans are very eye-brain related It's why when people need to hold off a target, they always hold to one edge instead of going further, because they quite often need a reference point. But yeah, so Vortex, Xerotech, man, for the price point, you can't beat them. The Vengeance and this Venom has the same features as my $4,700 Barris does. 525, 34mm tube, 56mm front objective. Okay, all you're missing out on there is glass quality. Quality like Night Force, Barris, Carles, Zeiss, Steiner, Leupold. Those Durascopes will get you to the next level, and it's interesting. And I say to you guys now, in this journey that you're on, when you get to a club and you're shooting and you see someone that's got a $3,000 or $4,000 scope, ask them to have a look through it. I did it a few years ago with a friend at Woodstock, looked through his XTR Pro. That one look cost me $2,100. So I bought a second-hand one. Yeah, it's amazing. Okay, so that's my take on scopes. I hope it's helped, and I'll catch you on the next one.